Welcome to this video presentation on how to teach private lessons, thanks to www.tutoringles.com. When we think about private lessons, the first picture that comes to our minds is this one probably. One teacher and one student working together to help the student improve his or her English language. Different from teaching a whole classroom with many students, this kind of work has its own particular characteristics. Private teachers can be more successful if they follow a series of steps that will be described in the following sections. Step number 1A, needs analysis. The first step is a needs analysis. In this step, the teacher can have a short interview with the student in order to find out the reasons why the student requires private lessons. Some common reasons are because English is a school subject, or students are preparing for an international exam. Students might be planning to travel abroad and they need English to communicate. Students might need preparation for an interview. Students will also need English for job advancement to get better positions. Students probably need to develop a very specific skill like reading, listening, speaking, or writing, or any other reason that the student may have for learning English. Knowing these reasons is important for the teachers to select the best content possible, as well as the demands of the private lessons. A second component of the step number 1 is the needs analysis for the learner's preferences. Some students will learn better by using visuals, others prefer to listen to a lot of material to learn English, others will benefit more from kinesthetic activities, and so on. Some students will be more concerned about learning the form of English. This means the pronunciation, the grammar rules, maybe a specific vocabulary or expressions, while others want to focus on the content, that is, really communicating using phrases, using expressions that they will use in certain situations where they need to function effectively speaking English or writing in English. Additionally, in this step, it's important for the student and the teacher to agree on the length of the lessons. Some students might have enough time to take lessons or private lessons for more than an hour, 2 hours, in the frequency, if they should take place every day or each other day. The step number 2 is the selection of the content. This second step is for the teacher to select the content based on the needs analysis. The options are to choose a book and adopt it, that is, to use it as it is, or to choose a book and adapt it, to select a book that is close to that needs analysis, to the student's necessities with the language, and then adapt it, changing things, supplementing material, or making or using the book in different forms. The second option is to design your own lessons. Designing your own lessons is probably the best option, since these lessons will be addressed directly to the student's necessities. But we have to consider that designing your own lessons is also time consuming. But still, as a teacher, think that your lessons, if they are well prepared, can be recycled later, and as the time passes by, you will have a bunch of lessons that you can use with other students. Finally, you could simply go through the jungle path. That means you start a conversation and you teach whatever comes during the lesson. However, the jungle path is probably not very advisable since it may create a sense of lack of professionalism on the teacher side or leave the student with a little bit far from the actual learning objectives that he has when taking the private lessons. The third step is the method. This third step consists on defining the methodology to be used. It is possible to say that the teachers will follow general methodology, that is, how to teach listening, how to teach writing, how to teach reading, how to teach speaking, or anything like grammar, pronunciation. So if you are already familiar with these processes, then you just use this general methodology. If not, well, you can get a lot of resources from the internet, or you can visit our teachers blog too, where we are constantly publishing ideas and steps on how to teach the different areas of the language. However, this general methodology, will need to be adapted for solo work. As we see in the picture, it's usually one teacher and one student. Besides, there should be a lot of emphasis on personalization of the lesson, making the student the focus of the lesson, and consequently, the student would be producing most of the time. The student should be speaking most of the time. It's a one-on-one work, so the student has to be pushed in different manners to produce either in written form or in spoken form. Additionally, the teacher should very often play the role of the partner, especially during activities which require pair work. Step number 4, the lesson. Well, the lesson should follow a general pattern. In the leading, the teacher should activate the student's knowledge, maybe create the interest, to review vocabulary or grammar from the previous lessons. Then the second step is to set up the activity that the student has to complete, and this is done by giving clear instructions and probably giving clear examples on how the student has to complete the activity at hand. The major portion of the lesson should be devoted to the activity, in which the student has to complete the activity, and while this is happening, the teacher should monitor how the student is completing the activity. If it's the case that the teacher is playing the role of the partner, well, it's still easy to monitor what the student is producing by interacting with him or her. And finally, there should be always some kind of close for the lesson, in which the teacher has the opportunity to assess with simple questions or referring to the general content of the lesson, and giving the student one more opportunity to sense that he is actually or she is actually advancing in his language development. The next step is more a recommendation than a step in itself. Teachers should always use an icebreaker to connect the student with the English lesson. Icebreakers can vary from games to simple conversations that naturally take place between the student and the teacher. They can both talk about the day, how was the day when they had the lesson, or the weekend, or whatever thing can create a nice environment to start the lesson. This environment should always be of confidence and respect. Let's consider that during private lessons, the teacher becomes more a coach than a teacher. And this means a coach should be playing the role of support and encouragement all the time. The step number 7 is about assessment. Assessment is a crucial part of private lessons too. They can be done in general in form of comments or general descriptions of the student development of his or her language. Assessment can be more specific by using tests, formal tests prepared by the teacher. In the case of exam preparation or interviews, the teacher should prepare exams which simulate the situation that the student will face when taking these exams or these interviews. Assessment, when done effectively, gives the student the sense of developing, which is really important in the case of private lessons, because it is the best way to prove that the students are actually learning by taking the tutor service. Well, thank you for your attention. We invite you to share your reactions to this video, as well as your comments. And also, you can visit us at www.tutoringles.com. Thank you.